right. Well, cheers, gentlemen. We'll start this off. As always, cheers.
Cheers.
Get you down there. Beep.
All right, let's get it started. All right. Hey, good night, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the Guys Night Podcast. I am Will McEwen, as always, and to my right is Anthony. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Love number 3, and we're doing great.
Yes. And a new person joining us tonight, Brad. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And of course, as always, David is holding up the anchor spot down there at the other end.
Rocking.
The final leg of the, what do you call that?
The tripod, the quad pod.
The quad pod.
Quad pod. Quad. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So not a whole lot to plan for the discussion tonight, but obviously we want to keep these going, keep all of our 100 listeners occupied and leaning for more intel. Appreciate Brad joining us just to add another layer of this podcast to the show. And really just kind of let's start off with some interesting things. First of all, for anybody that's listening to this, Tuesday we will be doing a live broadcast, our very first live broadcast to celebrate the election that's going on. And we'll have live updates along the way. And yeah, cross your fingers, cross your legs, cross your testicles if you can.
That's painful.
No, that's a surgery.
That's bad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually
No good. No.
No, let's not do that.
But let's start off that a little bit. Who here has voted already? 2, 3. All right, so we got 3 voters already. I have not. The lines are ridiculous. I mean, it is insane. I went up there again today to try. There was probably 200 people outside. I don't remember it being like that last year at all. I'd like to say that I'm a little excited about it. You know, there's a lot of information that's out there right now, and believe it or not, it looks like Republicans hold the advantage on early voting. That's not something that's ever happened before.
No.
What do you think about that, guys?
Well, I remember statistically that they were holding, Republican, sweet, were holding the advantage early on last election as well, and then they had that weird massive spike in many areas that came from the mail-in voting, so hopefully optimistic on it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we might have held the advantage during that beginning of Tuesday and into the night. But as far as early voting last year, and I'd have to pull it up to look at the actual numbers, but if I'm not mistaken, Democrats were leading early voting by like at least registered, right? We can only go by registered numbers, but registered Democrats had outvoted registered Republicans by as much as 20% in some states. And now it's the flip. Looks like Republicans have the advantage of a 10%. And you know, I'm not a political analysis by any stretch, but to me, that tells me that Democrats are just staying home, like they just don't want to vote this year.
Speaking of like lines and votes and places to go, like if you're a Democrat, like the cemeteries are a really good place to vote. There's like very few lines over there. There's some, but you know.
Brad, what about you? You voted. Where'd you vote? Local, obviously?
Yeah, voted local.
Try to get a little closer to the mic there, bud.
Yep. Yeah, voted local.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right on.
I'm not going to say who, because I don't want,
Say who.
I think you already know who.
Okay.
He voted for Hillary.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Right in?
Yeah. Yeah, no, like with my vote, I mean, I see the effects on like the whole economy. It's bad. Like, you know, it hasn't really been this bad in a long time. And I think a lot of like the young voters, as you were saying, that are feeling the effect of it, especially, you know, like people were renting because, you know, rent's pretty much crushing a lot of people, and, you know, they can't save money to buy a house right now. So everyone's like on the verge of like, okay, I don't know what I want to do until Tuesday when that election comes, and go from there, you know?
Yeah.
What Brad, we'll pick on you just a little bit because you're the newbie for the day, or the FNG for the day here. But I'm just, so how old are you, Brad?
29.
29. Okay. So
Damn.
the youngest guy in the group today too.
Yeah.
I guess quick question for you, just because I love hearing your info here, or your feedback, like politically. You may, unless you've watched prior episodes, you may not know this, but I'm a politics nerd. I've
started like trying to dig into it a little bit more. I was never really into politics until, you know, the past few years, and I want to study it more, what goes on, like to understand all that, you know.
Good. I think it's important. We did an entire episode, and politics will be something that lives, in guys' night forever because this topic never ends. But I think it's interesting, like people in their 20s in particular, when they start to take an interest in the politics is, and this may be by design, it's very complicated. They like to boil it down to, this color versus that color, this candidate versus that candidate. What matters? Does my vote matter? All that kind of stuff. But I do think it's an important thing. But so my question for you is, well, first of all, so your interest in it was just for like cost of living things, economics.
I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that, but I'm just trying to figure out like how things work and why aren't we doing this and we're doing the complete opposite. So I mean, I can go down a whole rabbit hole with it, but that's just like one of the parts,
Yeah. What are like, I mean, obviously we're your friends, but like other than us, like what are your political conversations like with just people in the people that you speak to on a like weekly basis? Like what's that like when you guys are talking about this subject?
I don't really dig into politics as much with my friends, but like there's things where I wonder is why we send all this money to all these foreign countries, because I know we're a giving country and all, but like there's so much more to our like the whole United States that we need to I'm trying to talk, sorry.
Yeah, no. You're killing it.
Just trying to figure out like why we're not like helping the people get off the streets, our veterans, why we're not putting more money into our schools and our foods and everything like that, make it better, make it great, but just doesn't seem like it is in a way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up some extra, some additional points. Talk about the economy is obviously a big function of the reality, but realistically, like I think people are tired of finally seeing all this money go to overseas when they're struggling,
Right?
Because ultimately we pay for that, right? That comes out of our taxes. We talked about the deficit. I think this year so far the deficit's almost 7 or 8 million, or a trillion, I should say, versus the average of like 5 to 6, and we still got another month and a half to go, and who knows what's going to happen after this election. But I think that, you just have a population that's extremely frustrated. And then you have the fact that we've really created these two teams, and you can't leave your team. Like it's interesting. Like, it's like people are so afraid to just be like, you know what? Yeah, I've been a Democrat for 20 years, but I just, how am I supposed to continue voting for it? And it's almost like the party of Democrats, they don't care. They just expect to get those votes. I've tried to watch Kamala talk over and over again. There's nothing that she says that sounds like it's going to benefit our country at all.
She's not even answering questions pretty much.
Yeah, well, because she gets lost immediately. She doesn't have the answers. It's funny, like people talk about in conversation, like, why is it that Trump can just ramble on and on about all these things that he's going to do? And why does Kamala get so lost every time? And it's like, when you're passionate and you believe in something, I spent 20 years in the auto industry, right? So as far as running a dealership, acquiring vehicles and inventory, training salespeople, like I could walk into a store tomorrow and immediately just start making actions that would start improving the store and the way that their business is ran, because I know that business. I know how those things work. The fact that she can't talk about it or answer those questions tells me that she just doesn't know. And that means she's going to have the same people running her that have been running, Joe Biden for the last 4 years. And I think we can all see where that's gone so far. Did anybody see him yesterday speak?
I did a little bit.
Oh my God, it's just so embarrassing.
Who had their hand up his ass?
Dude, I don't even think anybody did. That was the problem. I wish somebody did have a hand up his ass, because maybe then he could have said some real words. But it's just so amazing to me that we live in a country that voted that guy in, and that there's just some people out there that refuse to vote for Donald Trump just because they think that he's a racist, which couldn't be more far from the truth, or the fact that they think he hates women and wants to take away their rights. I don't know if you...
It's the whole like mainstream media just kind of like brainwashing and edit and cut all these like good things that he wants to do, and then they twisted it and make him look like a bad guy. in a way. And I also feel like too, a lot of people were voting just based on feelings, not like actual policies that will benefit them, their family, friends, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So just so everybody's listening, they're probably like, "Oh God, you got all these Trump lovers on here." Now Andrew's not here to defend poor Kamala. I have asked so many people to become a part of this podcast and just have a different point of view on it. And I think that honestly, people are afraid to come on and talk just because of the fact that they don't want to have to answer the questions because they're going to be tossing word salads like Kamala. Like they're not going to know what to say. And then as soon as you actually fact check them and actually show what a real conversation looked like, well, they're not going to admit that they were wrong. So it's just going to create anger and they just don't want to deal with that or don't know how to deal with that in a lot of cases. Real quick, I've got some. So overall, early voting is actually dominated by the Democrats, as you would expect. But you go by state right now in Arizona, it's 42% Republican voters versus 33% for Democrats. Let's see. I was going to try to go.
What's
back
the libertarian vote at?
Well,
Is there one?
42 plus 32. It's 20%. Well, you don't know what the vote is. You just know how they're registered. So 20% or so are still independent voters in that. We talk about PA. PA actually made a huge change today. So right now they've got almost 2 million votes in, ballots included. Right now it's 57% registered Democrats versus 33% registered Republicans. That was different yesterday. So for my friends out there in PA, get out there and vote.
Well, that is a
please.
very highly labor union-owned state.
It is, but even the union rep this year couldn't actually support the Democratic candidate because they were too washed, right? You have too many people inside that spectrum that are split. Michigan is currently 46% Democrat versus 43% Republican. I think we all went to bed with Michigan being a Republican state last election. So let's hope that they make it impossible to change that over in the middle of the night this year. Wisconsin is 34 Democrat, 25% Republican. And let's see, we talked about North Carolina, which is really interesting. That's actually 34% Republican, 33% Democrat. Virginia, 50% Democrat, 39. So those numbers have changed a little bit since last night when I looked at them. But obviously, the fact that this many people are actually out voting is early is a good sign. But I think in a lot of cases, we might not see as many Democratic voters show up just because they don't want to choose this year. I believe it's going to truly be a landslide. I hope that it is for our country, not because I care about one more than the other. Somebody's got good ideas and somebody doesn't. And I think the fact that two people that would have easily won the Democratic primary if they would have actually had one, maybe being Tulsi Gabbard and Kennedy, are both behind Trump and on his transition team. So
That speaks volume, though.
I think it does because it doesn't usually happen in like you could say like, oh, independent parties, bow out and go for one versus the other. But let's remember, Kennedy wasn't really an independent candidate until he had to be. He wanted to primary Joe Biden and they wouldn't allow it. They said he was going to be the rep until Kennedy decided to go independent, and then they had Joe Biden do his early debate and we're like, yep, you just clarified to the American people that you were completely lost. There's no way we're going to be able to hide this. And let's go ahead and stick somebody in there that if people don't vote for, we can call them racist, we can call them sexist, or whatever the case might be. It's the typical identity politics that really the Democrats have standed for so long. And I say that in a harsh way, but I don't consider myself a Republican. I don't consider myself a Democrat. I want somebody with great ideas. It just so happens that right now the Republican Party has got the things that are important to me kind of as the forefront. So
Two things that stick out to me in identity politics over the past couple elections.
Party foul.
Oh my goodness! No, I didn't spell anything.
Almost.
Almost got fired.
Was when when Hillary originally ran against Trump and they had her on radio and it was some Charlemagne,
Charlemagne the God.
yeah, the guy in New York, where she blatantly came out and said, "I love Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue. I put it on everything." Like just blatant, whether it's true or not, just like out of context. He's like, "I asked you about the economy. What are you talking about?" And then I thought it was a joke recently, but if anyone else see how Tim Waltz and Kamala played Madden on a live stream while talking about Project 2025 recently.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. I hate it.
Real
so
cringe.
Much. It was super bad. The score was 0-0 for most of the game, and like I'm bad at Madden.
Did they talk about their Glocks, their Glock 72s and their Glock 86s that shoot off 66 millimeter rounds?
Yeah, but they're not painted black, so they're not tactical. So like it's.
They were speaking to the Evans of the world who could flip those numbers around unintentionally in their head and figure out what the fuck they're talking about. So
all right. So obviously this week, Trump is really pushing towards the end. Did you guys watch either the podcast that Rogan did with Trump or Vance?
yeah, I watched both of them. They're great.
It's amazing to see two guys that could sit down for 3 hours and just have regular conversations. You know, JD Vance, like, I wasn't necessarily sure on him, but every time he talks, I'm like, dude, this guy should be president next.
So I mentioned this before, and yeah, I won't mention agencies or anything, but I was on his security detail during his Senate run. I was on Ted Cruz's detail, but Ted Cruz was here in Ohio when he was campaigning, and one of the legs just like casually, and I was plain clothes, but Cruz spotted me, saw the logo on the shirt, and he's like, "You want to ride on the bus with us during this next leg?" And it was the coolest experience because, you know, you're driving around in a car following politicians, which is not cool really at all. Like, it's neat, but like sort of like, you know, AC/DC comes to town and they're like, "You want to ride with us?" I'm like, yeah. No drug test tomorrow. I'm coming. No, but riding with them, and you know, I grew up in LA, so I don't really get starstruck, but I'm a politics nerd, self-admittedly. But so riding with them, and it's just two regular guys, and the Rogan podcast, hearing JD, like, have you watched the whole thing? Yeah. So, and he's talking about, he says, one of the things I'm not proud of is, and he's telling the story about his son on the airplane. And, you know, he says, yeah, this is this moment. My, you know, son, who's 3 at the time. And, you know, he drops, you know, a Biscoff cookie, and it's relatable. It's like, oh, I love those Biscoff cookies when we're traveling. And this is,
no, I don't want the pretzels. I want the cookie.
Yeah. But no, so I love his story when he was, you know, he says, yeah, and we're quiet. And he says, you know, and I've got a hat on and a hoodie, and like, they, you know, I'm a senator, but these guys don't realize. But the very moment that my 3-year-old kid says, "Well, Dad, fuck,"
Yeah.
then after that, all of a sudden, now everyone knows me and everything, right? But on the bus, like at stops, it was all politics. So it was all business. And Ted's funny, and he was very punchy, you know, at the time. But like, and he's punchy, but these stops, they were mostly like all professional and everything. But I saw something in the dynamic of how they were communicating, because Ted Cruz is alpha personality to the max. So when he hit the stage, like, there was nobody else. Like, Trump could have been in the building and you wouldn't even know, just because his stage presence and everything. But in private, there was a way that they were interacting that, you know, it wasn't like, well, you got to play it this way because you're going to be this. But I had that thought at the time, and that's like, he acts very presidential, like in what you want. And so it was literally that day I thought, oh, that was interesting. And then we were bullshitting, and we would start talking about like OSU football and everything. And it's like, well, I'm actually from California, so fuck all y'all with, you know, all of that. I didn't really have much to contribute.
Ohio State fucking football. They barely squeaked out a win today. Damn it, Penn State couldn't stop a fucking running back up the middle 5 times in a row.
Yeah, JD is definitely like, he's legit, but he's also just, guy's a fucking Marine. You know, it's like,
well, he's just a regular guy. It's funny, like when he goes on the Theo podcast, he's like, yeah, you know, I got to be careful. I'm trying to get elected. So if I say fuck too much, let me know. He's like, yeah, I'll tap you on the shoulder when you get to like 8.
It's so awesome.
But it's, you know, you hear him and Trump conversate with these guys. And obviously Rogan's known as like the greatest conversationalist really in today's world. And like, there's no situation. I mean, there's a couple times when Trump, you know, he calls it the weave when he gets out of there a little bit, has to bring it back, where Rogan, you know, did a great job of reeling him in. But for the most part, like, they have conversations, and when you let them talk, like, there's things that I didn't even know, right? Like, you hear about the border bill that Kamal always brings up. Trump stopped the border bill. Like, you know, and first of all, if you heard Laura Trump on Charlemagne, she's like, he wasn't even in Senate. He wasn't in the House.
He was a citizen.
He was just a regular
Private
citizen, like when that went to pass. So how are you going to say that he stopped it? Like, his influence was greater than the vice president's? or the president.
Or the president. Yeah.
Is she acknowledging that lobbyists have more power than the senators?
Oh no. She's never going to say that. Yeah.
But you know, he talked about it, and then he's like, "Here's the problem with that bill. It let in, you know, almost 2 million people yearly, right? Like just letting them in. It also was basically giving the people that were already here the asylum
Amnesty.
amnesty to just stay.
Yep.
And those are things that I didn't know, right? Like I knew there was obviously every bill that does or doesn't get passed, there's a reason. Somebody doesn't like something in it, and those bills are like 800 pages long, and they're written by lobbyists because they get paid more money. Right? You know, you know, that was another interesting thing about JD Vance says. He's like, you know, I'm capped at what I'm allowed to pay my people. So when it comes to writing a bill that could be 800 pages long, you know, when they get the skill to actually be able to do that, guess what? They become lobbyists. And the lobbyists pay to be involved in writing those bills. And they're designed to be complicated. They're designed to set up so that these lobbyists are able to get their advantages for their companies and things like that. But it was interesting to hear him share that, because I have not heard that once during this election cycle on why that bill didn't really get passed. And every time you look it up, I mean, I don't care what search engine you use, you can't believe everything that you read. You sit there and you're like, gosh, I just spent the last 30 minutes reading 25 articles and I still don't know. So I think that moving forward, I think that in the 28 election, you're going to start seeing that become more and more relevant. Like you're going to have long form interviews. I think the 5-minute interview on Fox is going to stop happening. The 5 minutes on CNN that turns into 40 seconds by the time they edit and clip out everything stupid that you said are going to be gone. And it's a good thing. You know, there's a reason Kamala wouldn't do that interview. There's no way she could have had a conversation for 3 hours without repeating the fact that she grew up in a middle class household with a mom that worked 2 jobs and da-da-da-da-da. Why does she never talk about her dad, by the way? Did he bounce?
Oh, for sure. She has real fatherless behavior all the time. That's a clip. That's on a T-shirt.
That's going on a shirt. Yeah, that's you know, I've mentioned some sort of semblance of this before. Like my biggest issue with her and the media is the secondary questions, or what I'll call the secondary questions. So to that point of, yeah, okay, so the other one that she uses is, I'm the only candidate in this race who has prosecuted international criminals and blah, blah, blah.
Transnational, actually.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Transnational. I think that's
Is that a
because
thing?
I think it's because I don't know if it's because of them crossing the border, or because when they got to our prisons, we allowed them to have sex changes at no charge. One of the two things. We're not really nobody really understands, but yeah, she's very proud of the fact
trans, or is it because they're crossing? It's a little, but so I get my follow-up question, and I would hope, this isn't a plug for Rogan, because, you know, we don't really want to share the audience out there, guys. Just stay with us. Don't worry. We'll give you the highlights. But no, my secondary question would be like, okay, that's great. You know, as somebody who came from California when, you know, she was the attorney general, they're fantastic. You know, you did a great job at that. Okay. My follow-up question is how's that relevant for this job that you're applying for right now?
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're, you know, as a prosecutor, that's great. Like, okay, you're trained, you know, through school and experience to do that. But in my mind, not to oversimplify the presidency, but the most valuable thing, I believe, is international deal making. If you stop and think about that, just think about the entire business as the country, like the ability to make international deals.
It's just to make deals in general, right? Because you're also making deals in your own House and Senate. Like you have to get somebody from the other team to vote for something that you believe in. That you know, whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. Like, hey guys, like, what are we doing here? Are we just gonna not vote because of sides? Because otherwise, like, what's the president seat even matter realistically, right? Yeah, she was a prosecutor. That's great. She also fought to keep people in prison longer for dumb fucking charges, nonviolent crimes, in order to use them as cheap labor on the firefighting teams that go out there into the woods, right? Like,
yep,
so,
that's a fact.
100% a fact. Never brought up. No. And, you know, it's so quick to call Donald Trump a racist. I would venture to say that a lot of those people that were kept in prison longer were coming from low-class incomes because they couldn't afford an attorney to get them out correctly. Yeah. And we're dealing with nonviolent drugs, or nonviolent offenses, so a lot of drug charges and things like that. And I'd be interested to see. I wish I could find the statistics. I've tried multiple times to see like what was the race percentages, or the percentage of those populations that were kept in longer based off race. I mean, you're never going to find that information
why
because
would
we
you?
don't have real journalists anymore.
No.
But
Podcast is helping with that, though. I think because competition does drive change, and it does seem to be with independent and podcasts like Joe Rogan and things of that nature seems to have a small effect slightly right now on larger corporations and like CNN and Fox News.
yeah. Well, and if anything, you hope that for instance, JD Vance is the kind of guy that should be running for president of our country. Not that I hold anything against Donald Trump, but he is 78 years old. Right. And it's not that, he's obviously strong. He can work a deal. He can be the alpha male in the room. We know he can handle overseas pressure. That's fine.
He did a job at McDonald's. That is hard, man.
Dude,
It really is.
Fries can be burned.
Well, what I want to know.
How about
'cause
dealing with all the people at the window? That's the worst part about
here's the
McDonald's.
thing,
Been
though.
there,
is
done that.
McDonald's always, I ask for no onions. I don't like the little diced onions. I'm fine with onions. I don't like the little diced ones. And they always fuck it up and give me little diced onions.
That's because those are
did he screw
pre-made
up?
cheeseburgers,
So
bro.
just- so
they made
ma-
those like 45 minutes ago.
Make
They're
me
like,
Yeah,
another.
they just put it
finally.
under the
Make
fucking
me
lamp.
another.
Yeah, that's
Make me another.
dude.
fine.
That's why you gotta fuck up. You gotta change the basic burger, dude. Otherwise, if it's a busy time and you go over there and just ask for a
Ask for a
cheeseburger,
plain burger next time.
I'll really fuck it up. That's like no salt on fries. You're guaranteed you're getting fresh
You're
fries.
gonna get a little
No,
bit.
give me
And then
extra
you
salt.
need a
Then-
lot or just a little.
Then you
Extra.
then you go get your fucking salt and you pour it on your fucking fries and they're all like, that asshole made us make fresh fries. Damn it.
Or just don't eat at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Definitely don't eat at McDonald's. And
They're,
that's
they're not
another
a
thing.
sponsor. Fuck McDonald's.
That's actually interesting. Did you guys see? Fuck McDonald's. Even if they wanted to be a sponsor, we wouldn't.
We're a
let them.
Wendy's family. We're a Wendy's corporation.
Wendy's is shutting down 140 stores nationwide. Just saw that today.
Yeah, but they support
I
genders.
was reading into that. It was like they're trying to get rid of the ones that are not bringing much of a revenue in.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right,
Dude,
but
Wendy's is dropping off the. Dude, I used to love their burgers. Now they taste like a fucking butterball.
I like their chicken sandwich. I won't, but I haven't had one in a long time.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know,
Burger
since I
King
try to
still
stay with.
exist?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Burger King. Still
yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could smell it anytime you're driving by. You're like, God, that smells so good, and you're like, oh, it's a Burger King.
Yeah.
There's like 2 people working in there that fucking have overcooked everything like 3 hours ago.
However, In-N-Out Burger, you can sponsor us.
Dude, my wife, I took her to Vegas. I was so excited to take her to an In-N-Out Burger because, if you're from the West Coast, like, you love In-N-Out Burger. Like, in California, it was Del Taco and fucking In-N-Out Burger. Here, it's Taco Bell and fucking, I don't know what.
Waffle House.
Hey, there's something wrong with Waffle House.
Waffle House is
Waffle
where we
House.
train to fight.
But she didn't like In-N-Out Burger. She's like, it was okay. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
These are grounds
Time
for
for a
divorce.
divorce.
Yeah,
Oh,
these are
yeah,
grounds.
God, I was so disappointed. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a fresh made burger. Like, that's just made. You paid double and triple that price for that at Five Guys in Ohio.
So I know she's good at making mac and cheese. Has she made any other food?
Oh yeah, my wife can cook.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing that my wife can definitely do. She can cook.
I can confirm that chili that she made the other day, and I'm not a big fan of chili, but that chili was unfucking believable.
Yeah, she didn't even like it. She said it wasn't that good. I was
And
like, we
I'm
ate
not
it
just
all.
I'm not just saying that because we polished an entire bottle of bourbon that right before that chili was fucking
I'm
amazing.
like microwaving hot dogs. I don't have time to wait for them to boil.
Nope. So good.
But yeah, she could definitely cook, and she's got some fucking number 1 and number 2s that are pretty aces.
Do you hear
so.
that? He's complimenting you. This is all nice things.
I'm sure I'll fuck it up later.
Well, you are a man. You don't know what you do wrong, but you did something.
But
So did anybody catch the? And I don't think we're going to talk politics this whole time, but
well,
I,
no, but go ahead. You got
I was just
something
going to say that did anybody catch the CNN town hall with Anderson Cooper and Kamala?
No, but I heard it was pretty fair on Anderson Cooper's part, but I didn't watch it.
He was a little punchy. Like I think CNN is having to rebrand a little bit because
They did get a new CEO, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
like
and
2
they're-
years ago, though.
Yeah. So that's one worth going back and looking at because they did take unscripted questions in theory from the audience, but there was one kid who says, well, I am registered Republican, but I have not decided who I'm voting for. and he specifically asked her on the
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
$25,000 housing credit, and then also I forget the part B of that question, but just go YouTube it, go look at it. It's good. But so the kid asked the question, and then she just goes on one of her word salad answers. Like his question, and I'm butchering it, but his question was, how is this going to be paid for? Like these are fantastic ideas. They sound great, but can you tell us how these are going to be paid for? Are they going to affect the national debt? Is this taxpayer money that's going to be paid? It's the federal government. Everything they spend money on is taxpayer money, by the way, which is kind of a stupid question, but it's a direct question. And she, again, I'm butchering it because I can't remember it. I could have watched it before we did this, but it just came to mind as we're thinking about like somebody who could never sit down in a long format. She did offer to do Rogan. I don't know if you heard that, but they wanted him to fly to her and
only an hour.
in 1 hour.
And like
right?
he said, he's like, I'm not an idiot. He's like, I saw the Brent Barry interview, and he's like, her people were in the background the whole time, like basically waving stuff off or trying to cut it short or whatever. And he's like,
Nope.
That's not how I do business. Like
Right.
when he's in that podcast room, like Secret Service isn't in that room with
Right.
him and Trump. Like
Right.
it's just him, Trump, and Jamie. They're all standing outside.
Yep.
Like that's the way his podcast works, and that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
If she doesn't want to be able to do that, she can't.
Yeah.
Again, that's the problem. So if she can't handle that pressure,
Oh, yeah,
how
no.
the hell is she gonna go sit at a NATO summit, have a discussion about a fucking war that's going on?
No.
And that's the biggest problem. So let's finish up this topic. I just got one question. So, what do you think the civilians will do either way? Trump wins, Harris wins. What do you think the results lead to on the civilian side of things?
I feel like a lot of people like say if Kamala wins, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave the USA," but most of it's just
Please.
all talk, really.
If Kamala wins, you mean?
Yeah.
No, they say that if Trump, they've always said
Oh,
if
yeah,
Trump
well,
wins, that
yeah,
they'll-
sorry,
how many
Trump, my bad.
celebrities say they'll leave?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
thank you.
they're-
But
so-
they're not gonna leave.
No,
They'll
of
still
course
be
not.
here bitching and complaining.
Just keep
but-
in mind, I am a licensed real estate agent. So if you decide you're leaving the country because of
I
the
would like to
election,
sell your home.
I will sell your home for you.
But like for me, if say Kamala does win, I mean, I'm still gonna stay here, work my ass off, and make the best out of it until the next election comes around, or whatever the case might be.
I think if Trump wins, you'll see a boost in the economy, not because of any inactions he does early on, but what we saw last time where it was literally just a confidence booster from him being elected, that you saw people buying things more because they believed it was going to be taken care of, whereas currently with Kamala, and even if it was Biden currently, that they wouldn't have that belief. Now, I'm not saying the belief is right or wrong, or whether it's what that will happen economy-wise. I'm not making predictions because the economy is a fickle bitch, but I think you'll see a boost in it and us to start to come back a little bit out of this bubble that we're in currently. I don't know what the long-term effects will be on that side. And then, of course, you'll see more of the autism crowd screaming about Trump, essentially. About how
Well, I was gonna
upset they
say
are.
I think that's where I was going with it. Do you think that because obviously the big things that you hear out right now is civil war talked about in our country, but then on the other side of things, like if Trump wins, do you think there'll be riots again, similar to 2020,
I'm sure there will.
2022, whatever that was?
In the level of what the January 6th riots were, which I would not really consider very much riots, yes.
I mean, well, January 6th wasn't even. I mean, that lasted a couple hours, and it wasn't even really what they call it, an insurrection. But I'm talking about like you had the BLM riots.
Oh,
Do you think it'll be to that degree?
I think there will be things inciting it again.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a natural happening. I think it'll just be as they were before. There'll be a lot of highly suspect things going on that are inciting it. I'm not sure what.
So there's always this nervous energy around all elections, at least in my lifetime. Definitely over these last couple of elections, we're a lot more tribal about it. Like that's the polarization is that genie's out of the bottle. It's probably never getting back into the bottle. And shoot, if you just look at even long form content I'm excited that it's coming back because especially with important topics, you have to be able to sit down I mean, we're just dudes having a conversation around the table. Like our phones are off and we're pretty focused and we're dialed in. But if you think about when we're not intentionally creating content, your phone's always nearby. It's texting, you got emails, you got your responsibilities, and that's just the way of the world. So to keep people's attention and paying attention to bigger topics is real challenging today because the message has to get there in 25, 30 seconds, like, or you've lost the audience, right? So
You have to grab their interest.
yeah, and you have to keep, you really have 20, 30 seconds to get their attention to maybe buy another 30 seconds. And you're going to do that process over and over and over again to where maybe you can get up to a minute. But really at a minute, you're spending the first 30 seconds and this is a never ending cycle. So I think, people call the news the bad news. Like you go and you turn the news on, like there's no feel good stories anymore. They may sneak one in at the end. Hey, kittens.
30
Hang in
seconds.
there.
Yeah, you're 100%.
Hey,
It's all based off fear.
Yeah, so fear works, and that's the business of the media is fear, because the more you're fearful. So rewind back here. And this can lead us into the next topic. But so September 11th, like I was in bed in LA when the first plane hit. And then I was woken up as, that happened. And then I woke up, turned the TV on, right? Because you hear about something like this, you're like, oh, well, shit, let's see what's going on. And then, you flip that on, and then I literally turned the TV on, and 10 seconds later, the second plane hit. And it's like, these aren't plane crashes. Like there's something happening here. And then of course, now all of the alarms are going off and everything. But so this happens. And also growing up in LA, earthquakes, floods, shit like that. Like you go to the news.
Floods. When did you see a flood in LA? I don't think I saw water my entire life growing up in Southern California. Like, hey, I don't even know. It's funny. We had grass. My grandma's house had grass, but I don't know how it stayed green. Like, I don't remember it being green except like for like one day out of the year. No
She had to
water.
have sprinklers. Like, yeah, when I moved here, and I remember looking at my house, and I'm like looking around, and, I wasn't a realtor at the time. My realtor's like, "Are you looking for something?" I was like, "Yeah, where are the sprinklers here?" He looked at me like, "Oh, you're silly. We don't have sprinklers here." But when you have things like this happen and you're fearful, you go looking for news. It's like what we learned as kids, like mom and dad, like something happens. Well, let's turn the radio on. Let's turn the TV on. And, it's like during that time was definitely like I had listened to AM radio before, but that was the time where I finally realized like, okay, so the radio is good entertainment for music and everything, but there is actual information that you can listen to. Like I like to think of AM radio as the podcast before podcast, really.
Sure. Stories and everything. It was book reading, it was movies, it was everything.
Yeah. So today's world, most people lose sight of the fact that if it wasn't for fear and anxiety and all of these things, the news networks wouldn't exist, definitely in the States. Now you turn the news on. What's funny is you turn the news on in Germany, and the only time I turn my TV on is when I'm watching content, or in the morning, I got to watch 30 minutes of both sides in election cycles, and then I'm good. But, certainly when I travel, I generally don't. But when I was in Germany, I decided a few times to flip the TV on while I had downtime, because that was mostly how I was keeping my German fresh, was just talking back to the TV.
I was going to say, when you said turn the German news on, I was like, you hear fucking German, which I can't understand anything.
So here's the thing. The German news, and I'm thinking about it now. I should have, we could go YouTube some of it, but I should have recorded it. But all the anxiety and the craziness and everything that you see on the news they're talking about us.
Yeah.
And then they flip over to like half naked girls at the beach and like, oh, we're having a good time out here, enjoying an extra day of
I guess I
summer.
have to watch more German news.
So we're moving to Germany, guys. But the media wouldn't exist anymore if they lose that culture, that broadcast of fear. People will stop tuning in.
Well, don't all we hear, at least on the internet wise, from other countries is that, why do you guys think the world revolves around you? But I mean, it kind of does.
Biggest economy.
I mean, just imagine if like America wasn't around, or we hold up so much around the world, and for us to crumble as we are right now in the economy is just like, I don't know.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I didn't answer your question I'll answer your question, which was, do I think, we'll be at war or anything like that? I think in 2016, the 2016 election, I think people woke up the next morning and they're like, oh, fuck, he won.
Yeah.
He must have cheated because Hillary got more votes.
Yeah.
But he cheated. He's not my president. I'm moving to Canada. Whoopi Goldberg, talking about you.
She can leave.
She can leave. I'll sell your house, Whoopi.
100% leave.
Yeah.
First act of Trump's presidency, fucking, you're canceled. Get that fucking.
She did 2 good movies.
You're
We won't care
fired.
about the rest. Like, get out.
What are you talking about? What good movies did she
Color-
do?
Sister
Color
Act
Purple?
1 and then Ghost.
Sister Act.
That was a
I've
great
never
movie.
seen
That was a
Ghost.
great movie.
I've seen
It's a great
Sister
movie.
Act.
It's a
Yeah.
fantastic movie.
So I don't think we'll be at war. I think, I think we're in a, we had the Cold War throughout our childhood and everything right up and through the 90s. I think we're kind of in a cold civil war, if you will. Like that's the, the identity politics and everything where, we have people that just believe one way because of either how they're raised or their skin color or this. And, we got people arguing about trans stuff. And to Brad's point earlier, like in terms of where money is spent, whether it's overseas on or whatever, like if you think about just how much aid has been invested in, one of the big misnomers out there, it's like we don't necessarily, yes, we do give cash to places like Ukraine, like there are cases, but a lot of times it's weapons and that's debt. Like they're going to pay it back one way or the other, right?
We hope.
But it's debt, and that's also a reason. Like, oh, they stopped paying us. Okay, we're going to go put a military base in over there, and they're going to pay us back that way, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%. But I mean, that's one of the things I like to see us fucking stop doing. So
Right.
let's transition to this last little bit about politics real quick. We all want to vote for Trump. Let's say, and real quick before I start, my concern with civil war or my concern with unrest is the fact that it's not necessarily the immediate effects of Kamala winning. It's more so the things like you got guys like Elon Musk who've been saying whatever they want. She's already said that she's gonna,
Cancel free
she
speech. Or something
essentially
like that.
wants to restrict them. What she'll do or not do, but I guarantee you the next 4 years will be filled with them trying to do something to screw with Elon Musk, whether it's business, whether it's his grants, which they've already done and stuff like that. I also feel like, you'll have to be, I'd be more worried about some of the things that she does that results in us involving ourselves more so into the wars that are overseas. So if Trump wins, what is one thing that he's either said or you hope that he does? And you call it two things that you hope that he completes, that he said he will, or just in general, you just hope that something that'll come up over the next 4 years that'll get done if he wins. Dave, I'll start with you. Or you need a minute?
Yeah, I have a long list, but I guess I would say that I think he's pretty true to what I said earlier, international deal making. I think, he's been quoted as, he'll resolve the Israel situation and the Ukraine situation as president-elect. That is super fucking aggressive because you're talking from between the period of November 6th, let's say he goes to work on that and he's going to have that before year end or before the third week of January. So, I mean, I'll put it to you this way, like, there are, Netanyahu went to his house when he was here in the States. He didn't go to Kamala's house. He didn't go to Joe's house, So
Well, that's because he's afraid.
yeah, he should be. But
He's like, I better end this fucking war before Trump gets elected because he ain't gonna give me shit.
I think that's I think he'll hold very true to that. And so I think, there's a lot that we'll never know that's going on behind the scenes, but I think there's a couple things that he'll do right away to satisfy the base, but he's a kingmaker. So he's going to do some of the things that he can right up front to fix immigration and
so what's one or two things you want him to get done then? Like real quick, just like these are the two things.
Yeah.
If I would just spit them out.
So, and both of those conflicts, if he can negotiate a deal, put that at the top of the list. Keep as much money here. That's number one. Number two, could he bring back Planet Hollywood? You guys remember that place? You
I
guys ever hear
remember
that?
Planet Hollywood.
Oh, that was.
I know of it.
They had the best chicken tenders. Could he do that? You think he could do that?
Bring Kmart back too.
Kmart, bring Kmart
No,
back.
do not bring Kmart back.
Dear
Do
Daddy
not
Trump.
do
How about
that.
Sears?
No,
Sears-
no,
J.C.
Sears. Be
Penney's.
gone with Sears
J.C.
too.
Penney's.
Dude, we don't even need any of
JCPenney's
those
still
stores.
around.
Fucking A. We got Amazon.
I'd say Toys R Us just came back. They just opened up a store in Michigan.
You got to be kidding
Yeah,
me.
no.
Well,
Wait,
that's,
what?
that's
A legit
Michigan.
store. But
Interesting.
yeah.
All right, Brad, what's one or two things you want to see get done?
I would definitely love to see him build a pipeline and use our natural resources rather than relying on other countries, and work on more of like energy. I'm pretty sure that kind of goes into that, but definitely we need to I feel like he would work on bringing the farmers back and growing the food and everything else that we need to survive here. And
I don't need food. Do you need food?
everybody needs food, but those are like the two things I would think that he can accomplish.
What you got, Anthony?
So I would agree on the natural resources, mostly because I come from Southeast Ohio, and there are still massive deposits of coal down there that we've never untapped. It's high methane content, so I understand it's harder to scrub out. But we have the resources here for us to be more self-sufficient, and I understand why we do things overseas. But I would love to see more of that because it would boost economies. Because
Bring jobs back. And
one of the things
bring more
that was
jobs in.
great during his presidency was when they were boosting the natural gas and oil down. So a lot of people got money, and it boosted the economy and the roads in a very rural, poor area that was a lot of it hit by the methamphetamine crisis of people doing
West
crystal meth.
Virginia's big one that.
Yeah, so that would be fantastic because I would see it locally and people that I care about seeing boosting jobs and economy and help us be more independent in that nature. And I'd have to agree with David also on at least the Ukrainian crisis because they're not calling a war ending because something I think about a lot is this generation, the past ones, or at least recently, they've been looking for something to demonize, and they've been looking in the wrong areas. Like you talk about, them looking for women's rights and all that. Well, they're not looking for women's rights because they'd be looking overseas at the people that actually demonize and slavery and abuse women. They don't look for racism because they would be looking where it actually happens more often, kind of deal. And we've just been looking in the wrong places, and I think he could help maybe direct it. Because how many people do you see that put the Ukrainian flag in their thing and they know nothing about it, or during the Paris attacks, or during the Boston bomber, how many people say it and it's the hot thing because it validates them and makes them feel good. And I think he could help direct that. He would draw a lot of hate in doing so, but I think he would be able to help give a little more directions on what we should be focused on conflict-wise.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the easy one is everybody wants to see the wars end, not just in Ukraine, but in Israel as well. And if that means that we have to be a little bit tough on our allies, I'm down for that. In fact, that would lead to my next thing. I would be completely... he mentions wanting to get done before he becomes president. I would love for him to start going after leaving NATO. It's not even about getting them to pay. It's about us. There's just no need for NATO. Frankly, if
NATO.
you eliminated NATO and our responsibility financially to them, you could actually eliminate corporate taxes across the country because that's essentially the same debt to income ratio. And that would allow our businesses to invest more so into our own country as far as people bring jobs over here, et cetera, et cetera. I do hope that tariffs help with a lot of stuff, including lowering our overall taxes, but we'll see how that works.
Do you remember when he was last president, when Nikki Haley actually gave that speech at the UN and where she UN and NATO, and she was talking about like, if you don't agree with us on this on our policy, we will withdraw funding from you. It's
more so than withdrawing it, right? Like you're giving some countries in NATO, like everybody looks at it as like makes us the world police because we own NATO, but ultimately it's an investment in us, and it puts us in a situation where we are entering conflicts that we don't belong in. And it also is like let's say you got a friend who's 5'3", he's a little fucking firecracker, he gets a fucking couple of beers in him, and he starts talking some shit.
I got a friend like that.
He's
Yeah.
working right now. You can't be talking.
And the only reason the only reason he's talking shit
No
is because
names.
he's this
I
happened.
love you. Don't block me.
This happened when I was in the military. You'd have a buddy of yours that was like, "Dude, do not start a fight tonight when you go out to the bars." And sure enough, he knew he was with 4 or 5 of his buddies, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna start a fight." Starts talking shit when he gets a few more in it. The problem with NATO is there's probably 20 countries in NATO that are like that, and then we're stuck defending them and being involved in these foreign wars, and all it does is create more enemies. Like we need to start worrying about being self-sufficient. Let them deal with their own problems, and I guarantee you they'll start coming up with some compromises a lot faster. Israel would definitely not be knocking on fucking Iran's door if we weren't backing them.
Right.
And that's that's my biggest problem with NATO. And then I just saw the other day, and this is something that was the number 2 for me, and this is important over my, getting older, trying to stay healthier and things like that are more important. My wife and I started watching really what we eat, started to use apps like the HUUUUGE app and stuff to start controlling like what we put in our body. That's not necessarily, it says it's good for you, it says it's organic, but it's got a bunch of other nasty shit in it. I love the fact that he has already announced that Kennedy, I don't know if you guys saw that post that Kennedy, there's that conversation Kennedy had last night. He's going to put Kennedy in charge of, God, I'm trying to think of all the different
Department of Health, things like that.
Well, it was like he's going to put him in charge of getting a lot of things back to in order. Whether it's the FDA was one of them, the World Health Organization, or the what's the United States version of that?
Who?
Yeah, but the United States version, CDC,
FDA.
I like the fact that he's going to do that because I think that's important. I think that we are all so blind as to what a 5-minute meal is putting in our bodies, and over the long course, it's disgusting, man. And there's a lot of people out there that talk about it, but it's bad.
I was gonna say too, like there's a lot of ingredients that are in our food that are banned from like a lot of other countries because it's bad.
Dude, you go to a grocery store in Italy, I'm telling you, it's the size of your fucking living room. It's
I was gonna say they pretty much cancel all that.
Yeah, it's all
shit
fresh
out.
stuff. They don't have processed food over there. It's all vacuum packed, like homemade style noodles, all that stuff. Like way better for you.
We here at Guys Night endorse whiskey and red meat.
Yeah, special shout out to my buddy. Actually, I just went and visited him in Oregon. He is a retired first sergeant. Actually, I think master sergeant. I don't think he made it there. We don't want to pull a Tim Waltz or anything. But I went and visited him in Eugene, Oregon. Let me tell you something. Eugene is probably one of the coolest towns
I've heard of
ever
That's a
been
great
to.
town.
Never been there.
Whether you want to go ride sand dunes, we've spent a night camping out in the woods, up in the mountains. We also went out there. I had first time going crabbing, and was awesome, dude. I think we had probably 20 to 25 crabs that we brought back to the house and boiled up and cooked. Yeah, crabbing, Anthony. We don't need to know about your Friday night.
Wrong crabs.
Are you itchy down
Do
there?
we know the same girl?
So Oregon Spirit, Oregon
call her.
Spirit, in honor of Mr. Legier this evening. But yeah, so let's not talk about politics. But you did mention something today that actually I was thinking about earlier. I was like, I'm going to bring this up tonight, and you said there's all things that we're afraid of and fear. Have you ever had to shit when you're standing up at a urinal taking a piss?
Yeah.
And it comes on at the last minute. You're like, oh, fuck, I can't shut this shit down. Like, I got to fucking ride it out. And I'm like, oh, man, I was at the gym today and I was like, shit.
No, but I like to
Literally.
go on runs, and I want to do a marathon because I'm crazy and I just want to do it. But you got to train up the mileage, and after 8 miles at a certain point, like you're preparing before you do it, I want to shit beforehand. But have you ever had to shit on the 8th mile on like a 16-mile run? Like,
No.
you're not near anything usually.
I'll say my fat ass don't run.
Yeah,
so,
and you find out what's really good for wiping really quick.
I have been in a scenario there where I've been driving around and had to pull over and shit on the side of the road. Multiple times.
Did you
In
use
fact,
some leaves to clean your
I
ass?
couldn't even count that on fucking one hand. No, dude.
not
There's
leaves, moss.
so there's a
Moss is real good.
So any of my guys out, any of my military guys out there, and any of the veterans, they will 100% know what the sleeves of a t-shirt are good for, dude. If you haven't had to rip off the sleeves under your BDUs or your DCUs and fucking out in the field and wipe your ass with them,
Gotta do what
well,
you gotta
then
do.
you haven't been deployed. Because when I came back from my first tour in Iraq, dude, every single one of my brown t-shirts was missing both sleeves. And some of them were actually cutoffs and showing my stomach because I had to rip off the bottom 3 or 4 inches of that at one point in time.
The funny part is those shirts were white when you first got them.
No, but I was thinking about that today. I was like, man, see, this is one of the things women always talk about. You're lucky you can stand up and pee anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you haven't been standing up and peeing and had to take a shit. And at that point, it's a detriment because you're already sitting down at the toilet. You're good to go.
Don't you have those things where it's like a fake penis? Like
Yeah, my wife has one of those. A Go Girl.
Go girl.
Go Girl.
While we're talking about poop, has anyone ever? So we've all had poops that you want to send into your buddies and be like, look, it's the largest shit I've ever taken. Like, no,
Actually,
I've
I've never wanted to send a
Oh
shit
well,
to
anyways.
my buddies.
But have
No,
you
it's
ever?
just weird, dude.
So you ever accidentally clogged your plumbing and like the fear that happened, but you get a little pride in it because you're like, yeah, it was. I beat I beat the plumbing.
Have you ever done that in a bathroom in a friend's house where like they only have one bathroom?
Oh my god.
Yes.
I feel bad. So,
And now
like,
you're
that
like-
fan doesn't do much work. It's
Well,
like,
at
I'm
that
sorry,
point, you're
dude.
like, well, fuck, I got to wipe my ass because I can't just wander around the house. So then now there's toilet paper in it, and it's like, fuck, where am I going to find a plunger? You got to ask. If you don't ask, like, then you're wandering around the house looking for a plunger.
Imagine
It's-
doing that on a
somebody
first
el-
date.
I may or may not have heard a warning about a friend's plumbing, and he had his cat's litter box there. And I
Just
may or
stop.
may not have
Just
made a
stop.
choice.
Just
Nice.
stop. No, you didn't.
And well, there was an expensive vet bill because somebody was worried about their cat. Because how could it be anybody else? And,
I don't feed corn to my cat. What the hell is this?
Dude, that's fucking terrible, dude.
spinach.
Well, we were talking about traveling the other day. You go to Europe and there's like especially when you're on the islands in like Greece or even a lot of toilets in Italy, like their plumbing out there is fucking terrible compared to ours. And a lot of them are like, don't. They're like, don't throw toilet paper in the toilet. Throw it in the trash can next to you after you wipe. And I'm like,
I can only imagine the smell.
dude, it wasn't that bad actually. But their bathrooms are so fucking clean over there. But there is something
days.
about me that just didn't allow myself to do that, and I was like, God, I hope I'm not the one guy that did this today. Or maybe actually I was like, I hope I am the only guy that's flushed this down today, so they don't have a fucking problem later. But there's no way I can take this fucking paper towel with fucking shit on it and fucking put it in a goddamn or tape toilet.
Did you
paper.
flush and run, or did you wait for the outcome?
Every place I went,
Yep.
to all those restaurants, especially in Greece, because on the islands they don't really have plumbing at all like that. So to all of those, if I broke your toilet and your plumbing system, I'm really sorry.
It's a
but
form of terrorism. It
I'm
sounds
sorry.
like.
Honestly,
There's just-
Will's on a list somewhere.
Now we know who
I
clogged
just,
our
I
toilets.
just cannot fucking throw toilet paper with shit on it in the trash can next to me. It's just
With all
not-
that money they have from us doing their military for them, you would think they would update their sewage systems, because all I hear about is don't visit Paris. Yes, it's beautiful. It's the city of love, but the sewage system is just awful.
Paris to me is a shithole. Like
Literally.
it's funny because I've heard recently. I just heard somebody talk about London. Actually, it was Tucker Carlson was talking about London. Thought it was dirty. We were in London. This is last year. We were in London. London was actually a beautiful city, and for the most part, it was really clean when we were there. But then we took the underwater train over to Paris, which is fucking sweet, dude.
Yeah,
You take it's like you're going 200 miles an hour underwater, and you're going from one country to the next. Like incredible. Got off Paris, you get off of this train station, and like immediately, like completely different vibe. There wasn't as much homeless as we saw when we were in London. In Paris, it was everywhere. Fucking, it's just crazy, and you could just tell a lot of them were foreigners. But it was just dirty. I mean, especially in that general area. Did the Eiffel Tower. We were only there for a day and a half, and we got in the car and we bounced and went up to Sweden. But like, yeah, not a kind of place that I would want to spend additional time in. It wasn't my cup of tea. Or in that case,
You good over there or anything?
No, it
What's
just,
wrong?
it
You
made me
said,
think something
you said
very
Eiffel
important.
Tower. And you
Yeah,
just started
so
cracking up.
some friends of mine that are gentlemen, they would always make jokes about
Not us.
the inappropriate sexual position of
One girl, two guys.
Yeah, calling Eiffel Tower, where they would go up to women and say, "Have you ever been to Paris?" You know who they are.
are you a fucking kindergartner?
It's not me. It was.
That's what you were thinking about. We were just talking about shit 5 seconds ago, and that went.
Started there and went to the Devil's Threesome.
Next up, Devil's Lettuce.
Count me out, buddy.
All right, so what's next on everybody's list? What else you guys want to chat about tonight? You got something intriguing. What did you do last night, Anthony? Did you do a little line dancing down at the Columbus Zoo?
We went down to Flanagan's down in Columbus, and super fun time. If y'all have never been there, line dancing, great. A lot of pretty women. The crazy part is they all dress the same. Like, of all the choices they could do, why would they all dress like whores? I don't get it. But no,
Isn't
it was.
that the thing about Halloween? It's like the one time a year that a good girl's
Yeah, but if
lost.
I dress like a whore, then like everyone yells at
You
me.
dress like a whore every day. It's okay.
Yeah,
You
right.
should-
It's the same.
Maybe we should flip it up next year on Guys Night.
Yeah.
We'll all dress like whores.
I'm down. But anyways, yeah. So went out in line and had a great time. Nothing crazy. I don't know. Got drunk like typical average Friday night.
Yeah, no good stories.
I mean, there's always good stories, but
No names.
no names. So I found out a little bit and I know it's not the episode for it, about the difference between male and female flirting. Like, you got to be careful as a man when flirting with a woman because she could take anything wrong, be worried, and you have to initiate things.
It depends on the woman, though.
Well,
Depends on the man.
the
too.
amount of women last night that were unashamedly saying very aggressive, inappropriate things. I mean, made me feel good. Like,
what were
personally.
they saying?
Hey,
God, don't breathe. God, you just fucking inhaled the fucking microphone.
They were saying things to him like, "No, I don't think your shirt's too small and tight. It looks like it came from Baby Gap."
No, I don't think that you molest other men for a living. Like, you totally look like a straight guy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, they totally misread the situation. What was my favorite one? The best one was and this
Anthony,
girl was a
we like your
poli-sci
dick.
major. It was, unlike Biden, you have to worry about pulling out tonight. And it devolved from there. It was
Hold on,
all-
you said poli-sci major? You have my attention.
Yeah, that's what.
Hold on a second. So did you end up going home with her?
No, I went home with Mo, actually.
Oh.
But
Ooh.
Oh,
Well, he
we've
drove-
had
he
this,
drove
we've
me.
had this
He drove
conversation
me.
before. He drove you where? Like
To
fucking
my
Eiffel
truck.
Tower?
To
Paris?
To the Eiffel Tower?
no, I got a few numbers, and we'll see what happens. But I'm not.
Probably never gonna get a text back though.
No,
Wait,
for sure. Why
wait,
would they?
wait. Phone numbers?
Yeah, this dude's not
No
close.
Snapchat.
Oh,
Your
no, you're right.
people do that?
You're right. Well, I was gonna send up smoke signals, but they weren't gonna understand that,
Oh.
David.
Got email.
Some of them offered nudes on stone tablets. It was crazy. Like,
Did you get her fax number?
No, but there was a lot of Kim Possibles. So when I would ask for their beeper numbers, they didn't understand it. 'Cause, call me, beat me if you want to reach me. If you want to page me, it's okay. And they just stared at me. And I'm like, that was a great line, whether you understood it or not.
Worked really hard on that one.
Yeah.
How many Kim Possibles did you have to go talk to before you nailed that one? And you're like, I got this
no,
down
there was
now.
4, and we didn't nail any of it. We nailed nothing, actually.
You keep saying we were with
Who-
Mo.
The royal we.
After the last couple of conversations, you know what? Andrew's not here to defend himself, but usually it feels like you're trying to put it in his ass. Tonight, it sounds like you already put it in Mo's.
Anyways, no, he just drove me home. He was a perfect gentleman. So, there was 4 Waldos, and after 30,
Did you find them?
I found them. After
All of
34 years, I found all of them. It was amazing. I kept going, but you son of a bitch, I've been looking for you for 34 years, and yet here you are.
Did you use that line 4 times too?
I did.
Yeah.
I was saying a lot of things, a lot of people that I never should have been talking
I'm
to.
sorry we interrupted. So you're saying she's a poli-sci major?
Yes. Would you like her number?
Only if it's a beeper number.
You should call her.
So you should call her. These phones can call now. What's going on? No, she definitely seems like she has some mental issues. So yeah, there you go.
Awesome. What did you do last night, David? You had a concert you ran last night, right?
Yeah, we hosted Parmalee, and
Did they sing, what is that song? Like, Have a Good Time or whatever, where it talks about being like your friend passed out in the yard and shit like that?
No,
I don't think they did.
no, they did. Goodness gracious!
I was
You
there.
weren't even there.
I know
Yeah.
Parmalee though.
Yeah, but do you know what song I'm talking about?
I don't think they write that song.
How's that song?
It's
go?
one of their, it's like,
that's the. I'm pretty sure they.
She feels like Carolina's their big one.
no, yeah, it's same album. It's a 2013 hit.
Maybe I'm
yeah.
wrong.
They probably didn't play anything that old.
Well, other than Carolina, actually, like
Oh.
other than 2 new songs, and then they covered Get Low.
Get out of here.
I wish I was recording that, but I did get some great video throughout the day, which will get published. But
Was there a lot of?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
There's some weird ones there too last night.
There was definitely some weird ones.
Here it is. Let's see if I get play on here.
You can only play 10 seconds
Oh,
of
it
it.
must have been a good time.
I don't think they played that one.
No.
No, what a shame. That's probably the only song that I actually like that they fucking sing.
Yeah, it was a little. I mean, they're country, but it's like soft, and it was nice. It was a good vibe. It
It's
was.
like
It was
Ed's music, pretty much.
yeah.
What is this word you use? Vibe.
This short for vibrator.
Is
That
it,
thing
is
you're
it like
sitting
saying
on.
it's lit
Oh,
right now?
it's so lit.
So lit.
Sounds sus.
Awesome.
What's that word?
Cap.
What's sus?
Sus?
Yeah. What's that?
It's one of those words that somebody shortcutted because they thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
like so
I-
many of them right now, and I'm like, can't you just say the full word?
That came from there was that game for a while called Among Us, where you had to pick out an imposter who was trying to kill everybody,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
at times they would say "red be sus." I actually have.
Is that like short?
Actually, no, I don't own any guns, so this is all hypothetical. But I have on some of my my magazines a picture of a gentleman from Among Us saying "government kind of sus."
Gotcha. Interesting.
I don't get it.
Sounds sus to me.
Speaking of last night, dude, you know what I did last night? Me and my wife went out to dinner out in Westlake, and we went to the VR place. I missed that guys' night when you guys went out to Sandbox.
You talked shit on that. I remember.
No,
that.
I didn't.
You
I
said
thought it was fucking a good time. I couldn't go for some reason. I went out of town.
It
or
was
went to
literally
Florida or
Team White
something.
versus Team Melanin that night.
Dude, let me tell you something. You know, it's funny because I was talking to my wife on the way, and I was like, it was pretty fucking good. Like, it legit feels like
the
you're
zombie?
in there. Like, yeah, we did one of the zombie ones.
Yeah,
It's their
fun.
newest zombie one or whatever. But all I could think about is like, in 10 years, what kid is ever going to lose their bedroom? Like, you could literally go from fighting zombies to having Pamela. Well, some of you guys are probably like, who? Pamela Anderson walking in off the set of Baywatch into your fucking bedroom. Like, that's
Anna de Armas. that's the one they'll get.
I was gonna say, there's been some movies they kind of portrayed like what the future could be like.
so
with
that's
all
where
that
I was
kind of
going
stuff.
with this.
Oh,
Did you guys see
Sydney
that new
Sweeney.
Megan Fox movie that just came out?
I saw clips, but I didn't see the movie.
Dude,
yet.
I was gonna watch it. I forget, it was like Wednesday or something. I was sitting home. I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch this. It's showing up all over fucking TikTok. It's
I lost my
called,
browser
It's
subscription.
called like it's like called subservient, whatever, something like that. I'm butchering the shit out of
Subservient
it.
or something like
Yeah,
that?
subservient. That's it. Correct. Anyhow, I watched the 2-minute fucking trailer, and I was like, I don't think I can fucking watch this. Like, this is fucking some dark shit, dude. And it's like, it looks like the guy's wife is dying, and they go to the store, the AI bot store, and they pick up a fucking AI to help around the house and shit. And it's what's her name?
Megan Fox.
Yeah, exactly.
If I could buy a Megan Fox from Transformers 1 robot, I'd be in debt right
I would never leave my house again. And if I did, I wouldn't be embarrassed to bring her with me.
We wouldn't do anything, but like I just would reenact the part where she's talking about the LS engine in the Camaro, and it's like, no, that's all I need.
that's when he busted
on
into his
repeat?
pants a little
Just
bit.
on repeat. Just
You are gay. You just said you wouldn't do anything.
just have her tell her she's proud of me and that I was white, right? And then we win an argument every so often.
Wait, that you were white?
Right. White? Either one, honestly.
When she-
So
Just
you
like,
would pick Megan Fox of all people to sit there and just tell you that you're right, and that to fucking replay the fucking talking about a motor in a fucking car, but you wouldn't do anything else with Megan Fox.
I'm a simple man. Let me live my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we are actually Mo and Andrew should definitely be cautious and not sit too close to you next time. I'm starting to begin to believe there's some truth.
They
in
look
that.
nothing like Megan Fox. It's fine.
Thank goodness.
Well, you just said you wouldn't do anything with Megan Fox.
Well, nothing I'm willing to
Why
admit to
wouldn't
on the
you?
open mic.
That just makes it worse.
Meanwhile, I'll be over here with my ass against the wall and a sock in my mouth.
Hold up, run that back.
But seriously, when I was watching, I was like, man, could you imagine where? I mean, you already see it, and I haven't looked at like the Oculus fucking 18 or whatever they're at right now. But like, what kid is gonna leave their room in 10 years from now? Like, man, there's already so many of them that are watching 8 to 10 hours a day of just scrolling and watching other people's 30-second TikToks. Like, if you tell them that they can have an AI best friend,
Well, the craziest thing I always thought about was it was happening about 5-7 years ago. Was here in real big, and it still is. But I mean, watching other people play video games.
you're talking
kinda
about
crazy.
streaming.
Well, I mean, it started off with a lot of it wasn't even Call of Duty. They were starting doing on StarCraft. Anyone knows what that is? Like, it's a real time strategy game. It's pretty much the national sport of Korea. But people would watch that, just sit down and watch it. And yes, now they watch streaming, but like they at least play it sometimes. But watching other people play video games is just insanity to me. Because
Yeah, I've watched some streamers as far as that, but only because I'm trying to like get better at a game and I'm trying to play or something like that. Like, there's a couple guys that watch
An
stream.
AI best friend that you cannot impregnate, by the way.
Yeah, right.
That's
What is that
kinda
going to do to
terrifying.
population?
Oh my god!
But it's not only that, but like this game, like, you know, so then I looked it up because there's franchises, and I was like, oh, this would be awesome in Medina Square. Like, I just have a fucking huge front window so that everybody can watch everybody in there look like fucking idiots. And that would draw so many people in. But it was like a $500,000 buy-in or whatever for this setup that they have and shit like that. And I was like, God, if this ever comes to the fact where you could get this for like $1,000, like, parents are never going to see their kids again.
No.
Well,
Like,
you
they're
talked
not going to
about-
even go to school. Like, just go to your room and be in fucking AI all day. Like, your teacher for fucking 8 hours. You fucking all this shit. Like, it's insane to think of where that could eventually take us.
Well,
The
you talked
Matrix.
about declining population rates because of it. I mean, hasn't Japan been having a massive issue with their declining birth rates for a while, and that they prefer robotics to actual interactions with people recently?
I heard they're like paying people to come over
Yeah.
to
Oh,
Japan.
Evan sent you those reels too, huh?
No, I read up on some of the stuff too.
Were you thinking about going over there and impregnate some Japanese women?
I want to go to where
Maybe.
you guys went last year, Greenland, Iceland.
Iceland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're back to Passport Bros conversation
Did
again
we
here
spin
now.
the wheel yet? We have not spun the wheel yet.
So we're you need to watch the video that I produced just so you can understand the first part of that. You need to put that on your watch list right away because we're going to do that in series right up leading to when we get our boarding passes. And then right after that, we're going to get our boarding passes, if you know what I'm saying.
So hey, look, I just
Oh, sorry.
Googled Japan. This is from 2023, February 16th. So maybe there's a follow-up article. Japan's northeast Maigai prefecture residents can find life partners via government-sponsored artificial intelligence-driven matchmaking service. How about that? You're gonna try to help with the national birth rate decline. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something over there now where they can bring over people. I mean, Iceland does. I mean, those people need people over there. I mean, it was a great fucking time, but
Help
like,
is on its way,
Like,
dude.
I mean, look at it this way. Like, so for Iceland, like population, I think it was the 1/10 of Hawaii's population, but like 12 times larger than it is a country. I believe is
Yeah.
the way that it works
Size
out.
is not everything.
360,000 ish.
Yeah, and it's primarily, I mean, that you can meet them all over the country, right? But other than Reykjavik, which is the capital, it's right outside where you fly in. That's probably where I would venture to say 60 or more % of their
about that,
population is
yeah.
at. Then there's like fishing villages where there might be 1,000 to 1,500 people. We were in what is it, Akurai, whatever they called it. Were you with us at that part?
No,
Second part?
I was
you
just
left
in the
early.
Reykjavik part.
And there was probably 5,000 to 7,000 people there, and that's like one of the second or third largest cities in there.
That's crazy.
Everywhere else is like 100 people. And when I say like you have to drive to get there, I don't mean like you have to drive from Medina to Strongsville, Medina to Cleveland. Like I mean you have to drive like from Medina to Vancouver, Canada. Like that's the kind of like roads that you're driving on. Like you're in the fucking wilderness. Like there is nothing around you.
Similar timing wise, though, like to drive from here to Vancouver.
No.
Just
I
the
mean,
type of
to
roads.
go around the entire. Well, it's hard to say because we got stuck in June. We got stuck in a fucking blizzard that covered the entire country. So it took us like at 1.4 or 5 hours to drive
In
100
a country
miles,
called
I think.
Iceland, that's crazy.
It
Why
was
would that
insane,
even be a
dude.
thing?
Anyhow, but what I was getting at though is imagine how like for 4 or 5 months out of the year you really can't travel that much. You can't move around the country. Because the roads are closed down all the time. Like they closed the northern half of Iceland was closed off in the first week of June. So what does that mean? These men and women that are in these places to find men and women that can only go in their local areas, right? And
Hey, cousin.
we met these
Sweet home Alabama.
we met these two girls outside of a club or outside of a bars, which we were at the bars till like 5 in the morning. It's like 5, 6 in the morning. We're eating shawarmas in the middle of the street on
Sun is
Rainbow.
out.
Yeah, the sun's out because it never went fucking down. And somebody strikes up a conversation with these two girls who they said they originally were 21, but then the girl said, I'm the same age as her. And that girl told our friend that she was 19. And by the end of it, we weren't really sure that they were even 18.
Yeah.
I was thinking closer to like high school students, but it's funny because the one she claimed that she was 21, but she was actually 19 or who knows what. And she was talking to me, my wife, and my other buddy, and his wife, and this is a girl that I could have been like, well, do you want to just come home with us? Like, and she would have been like, yes. Like to come home to be they call it a
Au pair.
au pair. Yeah. She's like, that's my dream is to be an au pair. And I was like, her dream is to do whatever
What's
or
enough?
whoever it takes to get over to America. And she's like, I love Chipotle and I love Target.
Bed Bath and Beyond.
And I love Marshalls. And my wife's like, how the fuck do you know about Marshalls?
I've been
Marshalls
wanting the
amazing.
pumpkin spice in October so bad.
My wife's like, yeah, I think she did bring up pumpkin spice. But my wife's like, do you know who Marshalls is? I love Marshalls. And then her friend's like, I love Marshalls too. And I'm like, this is fucking hilarious. And then our one friend who's not here is like, you cannot come home with us and be our nanny. And he was doing it without saying it, but we knew he was winking and the gunning it. But anyhow, so it's funny. This whole conversation takes place, and she's like, all there is to do is drink and party and fuck and fuck. And I was like, this girl has a mom and dad somewhere, and they probably taught her that. Like, that's all there is to do here is drink and fuck and party. And that's all they do. And they're all like, Iceland is, I don't know if I'm gonna get canceled for this, but Iceland is like Hitler country. Like what Hitler wanted for a population is Iceland. The
Aryan
women
nation.
are all 6 foot and blonde and like 140 pounds. And the men are all like 6'3", 6'4", like
The short men were 6'3" and
yeah,
6'4",
like 240 pounds and
cut.
fucking like. And there's some in between stragglers, like fucking like
That was
what-
us.
Yeah, they're like, what are they doing here? They're like, oh, they're Romanian. But like, these are fucking Viking men and
I mean, we
women.
won 2 world wars. I don't give a shit what they say about us.
But the funny thing is, and I didn't know this, there's an app in Iceland that fucking checks your relation to the person you're talking to. So if I met
weird.
this girl, we would basically compare apps to make sure that we weren't too closely related, because the average person is your 7th or 8th cousin over there.
Yikes.
So while we're on that topic, because some of us are from West Virginia,
Yeah, go on, cousin fucker.
blood does, if I remember right, actually limit out after about the 4th or 5th. Not
Well-
that's what you should seek. I'm just saying that.
Well, obviously, the average person is your 7th or 8th. She's like, I know plenty of girls that like their parents made her move away because she was in love with her cousin. This is what this girl was telling us a story. She's like, she's still heartbroken because they made her cousin move away because she loved him and all this stuff. And I'm just like, God, these people are fucked up.
Must have been a hell of a cousin.
But I could still see myself spending 2 months over there and having a really good fucking time.
Yeah.
But then I'd be bored and I could not live there. Like, people that live in Iceland are fucking insane. There's the only good thing about it is like you have free heat. So like everybody's got heated driveways. Fucking the water is amazing. It's the cleanest water I've ever fucking drank. Like, you could drink it right out of the fucking faucet, and it's better than the shit they put in bottles over here. So there are some benefits to it, but it's fucking cold. It snows. It rains. It sleets. It sucks.
Sounds depressing.
It is for like, and here's the other thing. We were there during the point where it was 24 hours of daylight.
Yeah.
There's a point in time when it's 24 hours of fucking darkness. And there's a lot of time where it's like 6 to 7 hours of daylight. Like, fuck that.
What's surprising about that place, though, is that even like you can Google it too. Like, they're overall a really happy country, and like them in Finland and there's a couple other
Like
Nordic
Switzerland?
countries.
I mean,
that
respectfully, if all you
are-
do is drink and fuck and they all look like that, you're probably going to be pretty damn happy.
I think it has to do with that. It's also college is free there. You know, for citizens, it's part of your taxes. Like, it is a very expensive place to live. Like,
Yeah,
there is
very
that.
expensive.
But if you have the aptitudes to become a doctor, your entire education is paid for. Like,
Well, and they're gonna have their problems eventually. Like, in order to help with population, they brought in a lot of immigrants, a lot of them from Romania, Ukraine, that they've brought in, and obviously that one helps supply the workforce.
yeah.
But
They had
event-
Haitians too over there
Yeah,
when we were there.
they
yeah.
did. So, but eventually, that's going to cause the same issues we see in our country when you allow too many immigrants in. It fucking reduces the cost of fucking employment, makes things go up in pricing, and then you have all kinds of other issues. Like, it's easy now for them to afford a house, but wait till you have to give away like one of the fucking 200 houses that are on the entire island.
Right.
And then on top of that, your wages go down like that eventually. But it is a safe country. Felt extremely safe when we were over there. It is the safest country in the world, other than volcanoes. We were at the Blue Lagoon for the 2 days it was open before the volcano shut it down after they just reopened it. And you can tell that is the #1 tourist attraction in that country because they literally have bulldozers and entire teams out there trying to stop lava from ruining the fucking Blue Lagoon. Like, that is their sole job, is to fucking stop lava flow. Like, it's fucking insane, dude.
Yeah. I think it'd be a really neat idea to have vehicles that are not exactly designed for off-road use and go up there and drive them off-road to go find the volcano. That would be really neat.
That's definitely a top
We
gear
would
episode.
never do that.
That's definitely top
Never
tier.
will we do that. Trying to find my DJI drone that got lost fucking in the middle of the fucking volcano field because I wanted to get so close to the volcano that it ran out of battery on the way back. And yeah, that was a good time. But shout out to DJI because it fucking literally video recorded the last minute before it landed and gave me step-by-step fucking coordinates that landed me right on top of it. So 2 hours before my flight, my awesome wife, my friend Tom, and me are out there walking in this vast volcano field. It's got this crazy moss on it, and it's solid gray, and so is the DJI drone. We're out there. on a road you're not supposed to be on because everything's closed because the volcano eruption's like 1.5 miles away from us, and we are just fucking. I don't know how we found it. It was incredible. We found it literally, and then we had to hurry up, get back, take the rental cars back, get them cleaned up, so it didn't look like we just drove it off road over a bunch of volcanic field. Yeah, good fucking time though. But yeah, that was an interesting country for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely an experience that everybody should have for at least 1 week.
Is New Zealand on that wheel of?
It wasn't on the list, but I think what we'll do. So I'm up against a hard stop. I gotta cut out myself. I mean, but I think in our maybe since it's going to be a bunch of us for election night, we'll have that as a topic. I think we got to progress that along a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
We can all like kind of. I think it'd be fun to sort of research together. Like, there's a ton of lists to go off of. The wheel has 10 spots on it.
The wheel has spoken.
And the wheel will have spoken. The wheel is gonna.
It's gonna have Greenland on there though.
Maybe I do need another cup of that. I don't know, but yeah, no, I think it'd be fun to. I wish I could. I cannot. I want to in a bad way.
So good.
Here at Guys Night, we really alter between sarcasm and truth quite often, and we don't know what's real sometimes.
Truth chasm.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. Couple of things. One, if you're listening to this, you want to be on the show, we are welcome to. We invite all men to be part of this conversation, to get out there, talk about whatever it is. It's a platform to spread your word, but really just to be able to conversate with other guys, not have to worry about somebody talking shit about it. And if they are, who gives a fuck? We got your back. And two, we're going to have a live election this Tuesday, right? So we're going to be doing our first live stream. I hope that people will watch, but anybody that knows me, wants to reach out to me, you're welcome to drop by the house. We're going to have it set up out here, down here in the basement, and should be a good time. Probably going to be a disaster, but should be a good time. And yeah, and the other part of this is subscribe to the channel, whether it's YouTube, whether it's podcast, or I'm sorry, Spotify, TikTok, whatever. Comment what you want to talk about, what you want to hear us talk about. We're hoping to have people on for all kinds of different topics in the future. We're going to talk about business and financial advice here coming up soon with some local business owners, a couple of financial advisors. We also want to have some conversations about sports. So if anybody really wants to be part of a sports conversation here in Ohio, we like to talk about how bad our teams are. But hey, the Cavs are the best fucking team in basketball right now.
They're number one right now.
About to play Milwaukee tonight. Good luck to the Cavs. Anybody else got anything before we shout out and take off?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Brad, thanks for joining us for the first
Thank
time.
you.
Hope you join us again. Maybe we'll see you on Tuesday. David, as always. Anthony, always with some good comments. Good night, everybody.
Quality.
I have Megan Fox, but I wouldn't fucking do anything.
Well, I'm not gonna openly admit to fucking a robot.
Even my wife would fucking make
Just wait the next 10 years when Anthony brings a robot to Thirsty.